Jay Leno has over 180 cars in his collection. Ask most people to name 5, and they'll trail off after 3. That's not because they're not fans. It's because some of the most extraordinary machines in that garage are hiding in plain sight, episode after episode, and almost nobody notices them. Here's what makes that so remarkable. A few of these cars shouldn't even exist anymore. Some were scheduled for destruction. One was nearly impossible to repair. And at least one is, as far as anyone can determine, the only one of its kind on Earth. Start with the Chrysler turbine car. Fire up the engine and it doesn't rumble or growl. It whines and climbs into a high-pitched scream, exactly like a jet on the runway before it lifts off. That's because the technology is essentially the same. Chrysler built 55 of these in the 1960s as a genuine experiment, lending them to over 200 ordinary American families to find out whether a turbine engine could realistically replace the piston. Most drivers loved them. Chrysler destroyed 46 anyway, partly to avoid import duties on the Italian-built bodies, partly because mass production never made financial sense. Only 9 survived. Only 5 still run today. Leno first saw one as a teenager at the 1964 World's Fair and couldn't leave. Decades later, he owned one. Then the turbine seized, and a car with almost no surviving parts became the world's most expensive conversation piece. Getting it running again required tracking down Williams International, the firm founded by the original engine's designer, whose current head assembled roughly 60 veterans from the original program just to bring one engine back to life. Then there's a car that looks like it should be in a rental car lot. Picture a 1980s Ford Festiva, small, forgettable, the kind of car nobody ever photographs. Now imagine 2 men, Chuck Beck and Rick Titus, gutting it and dropping in the Yamaha-built V6 from a Ford Taurus SHO, mounted mid-car and powering the rear wheels. They called it the Ford Shogun, and it weighed barely a ton, hit 60 miles per hour in around 4.6 seconds, and ran the quarter mile in under 13 seconds, faster than a contemporary Porsche 911. Only 8 were ever completed. Leno owns chassis number 3, bought new, and later added nitrous oxide himself, just to push the absurdity further. Nobody expects that car to move the way it does. Further into the collection, you'll find entire brands that history swallowed whole. A Cunningham C3, built by a man who constructed a car company just to qualify for Le Mans. A Will St. Clair from one of Henry Ford's earliest engineers. An NSU Spider that was the first rotary-powered production car ever sold. And a Jensen CV8 that paired American muscle with British coachwork and still managed to be forgotten. And then there's the Mercedes-Benz 600, already one of the most engineering-intensive luxury cars ever built, with hydraulic systems controlling nearly every function, except Leno's 1972 example has a supercharger that Mercedes never offered from the factory. Specialist restorer Carl Middelhoff fitted the stock V8 with fuel injection and forced induction, lifting output from around 300 horsepower to approximately 525. By all accounts, it's the only supercharged 600 anywhere in the world. Leno calls it his personal favorite, and he drives it regularly. That's the thing that separates this garage from any museum. These aren't cars preserved behind velvet ropes. They're machines that get started, get driven, and get understood. The rarest cars in the world are sometimes hiding in the most ordinary-looking corners, and Leno's collection proves that better than almost anything else in automotive history. If you found this as fascinating as we did, drop a like and subscribe. There's always another remarkable story waiting just around the corner.